Today's discussion is nothing but adventure travel and the beauty of the outdoors. And in Canada, we have some of the best of it. And I really have this desire to know more about it all the time. And I've had a chance to do some of that. And today we're going to talk to Sean O'Donnell from Arctic Moto. And nothing better than the Arctic. Sean, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Frank.
Glad to have you on. It's really interesting. You know, the outdoors is a unique place for me. I've had a career in the outdoors, but I never had an experience like riding a motorcycle to the Arctic. And it was fantastic. And I had to have you on to talk about a couple of really famous parts of that ride. And the biggest part is the Dempster Highway. And your company runs motorcycles from Whitehorse and Dawson City all the way to the Arctic Ocean. My belief that there's no other highway in North America where you can actually touch the ocean other than the Dempster. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. You can go up to Prudhoe Bay and you can get to the ocean, but you do have to get on a shuttle bus, and you do head through some oil field lease sites and whatnot. So you're escorted the whole time, and it's just it's not quite the same experience, especially with the opportunity to camp right on the shores of the Arctic Ocean when you do arrive in Tuktoyaktuk. It is one of a kind for sure.
Yeah, and that's the greatest part is that you can stop right there and camp right there. The ocean's right there. You can put your feet in it, and you know the sign is the unique portion. And I'm going to back up from the sign because everybody who goes to Tuk and drives the Dempster gets a photo of that sign. It's a very famous sign, but the uniqueness is it doesn't start there. And quite frankly, the sign usually means nothing when you're there. It's because the journey, would you say, is what makes the sign fabulous, not the sign?
Yeah, it's definitely the journey that makes the sign fabulous. And a lot of folks in the adventure world, they don't like to backtrack all the time, but it's a sense of accomplishment. But at the same time, you got to turn around and do it all over again. But just changing direction gives you a whole new perspective along the Inuvik Tuk connector and the Dempster Highway. So yeah, even though you're technically backtracking, it sure doesn't feel like it. It just opens up a new journey, I guess, to get back to the start.
And it's so unique because it's what 900 and some kilometers of dirt,
Yes,
of,
exactly.
of dirt. I want to actually arguably one of the best highways, non-paved routes in the world until it gets wet. But then I digress. We're way too ahead of the ride, right? We're way too ahead of the ride.
Totally.
The wet will come up in it. So now that we're talking about the Dempster, let's talk about what you do down. I guess are you situated out of Whitehorse or out of Dawson City?
No, we're based in Whitehorse, Yukon these days. Yep.
Yeah, and that's a fabulous, fabulous gateway to the Yukon. It's one of the most eclectic. So tell us about Whitehorse and Dawson City, which is fantastic, and how your whole business runs to be able to get this experience. And it's all by motorcycle. That's what you provide people. So anybody who's listening to the show has to understand that the Dempster Highway, we'll talk about that great trip that you can do on a bicycle, because I've seen people when I went on bikes, you could walk it, you could hitchhike it, you could run it backwards if you want. Pardon me, you could do what you want. But we're talking about motorcycles on this portion of the show. So tell us about your company and how it all works.
So yeah, we're like I say, we're based in Whitehorse, Yukon, which is a amazing little. It's not so little anymore, but it is still in terms of things. It's a fairly small community here, right on the shores of the Yukon River. We've got an international airport, which makes it for easy travel. Folks can come in from all over, and we've got an amazing airline locally, actually, Air North, voted number 2 in the world a couple times in a row. So you fly in with them. We'll pick you up from the airport. We've got a fleet of well-maintained, all current motorcycles, Yamaha Tenere 700s and a couple Kove 450 rallies, as well as some KTM dual sports to keep it light if we want to do some single track. And our tours vary, anywhere from Whitehorse all the way to the end of the world in Tuktoyaktuk, or we can bring you on some more local routes that we've got here. Little some lesser known routes. You know, we do the Canal Roads and Nahanni Range Road. Those are two very popular. Again, all dirt travels. You know, not a lot of traffic on either of those routes. And then we even do some single track and some double track, depending on what a person wants to do and how spicy they want to get done. And we've got some new things coming in the near future here as well, where we're working on kind of advanced travel, where we'll have motorhome support, but we'll focus on complete dual sport, where you know, the portions of the highway will actually be transported in trailers and kind of relaxing until we get to the next base camp that we'll be based out of for a few days.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's pretty interesting.
yeah, and you know what you were talking about earlier, Sean, about you have to double back, and a lot of people in life don't like doubling back.
Yep,
The whole concept of this place in this country is that you have no choice but to go that way.
exactly.
If you're going to go without flying, you have to come back. So I tell all my friends that my experience up there was you don't accidentally pass anything when you do this ride. When you go from Whitehorse to Dawson City, which is one of the most eclectic, yeah, this is incredible. I from Diamond Tooth Gertie's place to suck on a toe, and I'm going to leave it at that, because if you don't suck on a toe in Dawson City, you're no sourdough either. So I guess you got to have it all, right? Uh,
Right?
you got to have it all. So besides the motorcycle riding,
Yeah,
which is over the top incredible,
totally.
there's just so much beauty of this part of Canada that you can't come back and talk about it all because it's so eclectic. Is that how you guys see it? Is that how you sell it?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's a part that plays to our advantage is our location. It's don't want to say it's its own selling feature, but you know, a lot of people are kind of that have the idea to come up here are aware of what they're going to expect and what they're going to see. One thing we really try and do is, you know, fill them in on what they're not expecting, and you know what we can bring them, what we can offer for them, I guess. And you know, one of the biggest things is solitude, and that's something that I guess take for granted being here all the time in the Yukon. But a lot of people are blown away when they get out there and they realize that they truly are alone, and there's nobody around. It makes for a pretty special experience, and then you top it on with the landscape that we've got, and every direction you look, it's you're in awe. So it's pretty remarkable, and it definitely helps us sell our tours up here in the north.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a trip together in a second, but before we take the trip, we're going to start in Whitehorse. You and I'll take a trip together. We'll
Sure.
talk about the ride, right? Okay, I think that's what people want to hear about, what that ride's like, what that drive's like. But before that, tell us about you, Sean. Are you a Yukoner, or are you somebody who came to Whitehorse from another country and never left?
No, I was fortunate enough to be born here, but my family was some of them folks that had come up here actually on a honeymoon in '76 and zigzagged across Canada. Mom got here and realized that this was literally home, and her friends thought she was joking when she asked them to pack her apartment, until they realized that she wasn't joking. And mom made it her home from '76 until now. So it's you know, pretty remarkable. She realized what it was, and I was fortunate, you know, even my early years, 14, 15 years old, I realized how special the Yukon was and didn't have much of a desire to leave. Whereas all my friends and my peers all wanted to, they couldn't wait to get out of here, you know. So I'm
They'll be coming back, Sean.
definitely, and a lot of them have, and you know, some of them still, when I talk to them, they express their wishes to want to come back here. So it's, yeah, it's pretty special.
It's actually it's not special. It's incredible. It's
It
incredible.
definitely is.
It's beyond special. I tell everybody about this experience, especially driving from mile marker 0
Yeah.
all the way to Whitehorse. That is incredible.
Right.
That has its own life. That's another show. But when you hit Whitehorse, you realize that, wow, this is really something in the middle of nowhere that's got lots of history and the culture's incredible there.
It is.
Anyway, it's there's a lot to do when people get there. There's a lot to do. You're not going to be hanging out, not having something to do. There's lots. So
Exactly.
let's do this, Sean, because we talked already. Pardon me, and you already know I did this ride,
Yep.
and I did this ride for my own personal reasons, which everybody who does this ride, believe it or not, has a personal reason they're doing it. There's
That's
something
right.
deep. There's something deep inside because it's dangerous. You're on a motorcycle. It's
Yep.
dangerous. You don't want to be somebody who bought a brand new BMW 1250 that's never rode on gravel.
Yeah, definitely.
Probably not a good place to learn how to ride motorcycles on gravel.
No,
Agreed?
I totally agree with you on that one.
The Dempster is the most beautiful highway in this country that will eat you alive.
It will.
You better respect that road.
Yeah,
It's beautiful beyond expectation, but you better respect that road. Fair as a person who
definitely.
fair. So
Yes.
not to scare people, but people come up with these expectations, right? On this journey that you get to Whitehorse, you get your tires changed, and you're you're on a weird road to Whitehorse to Dawson City from Whitehorse, correct? You're on a weird road. It's kind of you don't know where you're going because you literally are going to the top of the world of nowhere from there. But so that's what we've done, right? You and I, we've got together. We're in Whitehorse. Tell me what the ride is going to be like at the start and where we're going next.
Well, once we leave Whitehorse, we're gonna head up, and we're gonna leave through the Ibex Valley, and we're gonna head on what they call the South Klondike Highway, which for the first 180 or so kilometers kind of mirror the old wagon trail that crossed at Takini Crossing, and that'll bring us into the First Nation community of Carmacks, where again we'll cross the Yukon River. We kind of follow again the river valley all the way out. From Carmacks, we're going to continue making our way north. We'll pass through another two more First Nation communities. We've got Stewart Crossing and we've got Pelly Crossing that we're going to pass through. From there, we're going to hit the South Klondike Junction, where we can head to either Mayo and Elsa, or we can continue heading northwest a bit towards Dawson City and get into Dawson City again along the Yukon River. And it's famous gold rush town that really hasn't changed a whole lot since 1898. It's still got gravel roads and actual true boardwalks. There ain't no sidewalks in Dawson City, and we've got the one paved road in there, but historic reasons they actually used brown tar when they paved that section of road so that it looked like dirt, even though it is
Even though it's paved.
asphalt. Yeah, so it's as you say, we've got the Diamond Tooth Gerties, the oldest operational gambling hall in Western Canada, still operational. It's the only casino in the Yukon Territory, and we've got can shows going on every night of the week during the summertime, and that with the midnight sun topped onto that, you come out of a pub at 10 o'clock at night, and the sun looks like it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So
Yeah.
some people get caught up in time up in Dawson City, and one day turns into a few, but
Oh yeah.
it's a pretty remarkable place in its own, and
Oh,
it's got a lot of really really colorful locals, and
and
it
rich character, rich
definitely.
character. There's
Yeah.
no other place in Canada. I've traveled this whole country, coast to coast
Yeah.
to coast,
I believe
and
you.
there is nothing like Dawson City. I stayed at the bunkhouse.
Okay. Yeah.
Super cool place. Oh yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah.
I just could imagine 150 years ago what that would have been like, eh?
Exactly. Well, it was at one point in time, it was the largest town north of San Francisco.
Right.
In the early 1900s, and
Yeah. Yeah. A
it was
lot of money came out of that place.
definitely
Like lots of money.
a lot of gold, but
Yeah.
also a lot of heartbreak, and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
a lot of people that lost it all,
Yeah.
but had an amazing time doing it.
That photograph that's historic for that region of is it the Chakut Mountain with them
The
climbing
Chilkoot.
over?
Yeah,
Say that
yeah.
again?
The Chilkoot, that's the
Chilkoot,
Chilkoot
that's it.
Pass,
Chilkoot.
and
Yeah, pass.
yeah,
That photograph is insane.
it
That's
is. Yeah,
2,000 pounds, right? You had to carry over that?
you
Was it?
had to carry over that, and that particular section that you're speaking of is called the Golden Staircase.
Right.
And when you go and do the Golden Staircase today, it's that entire area is littered with material that was either dropped or there's the remnants from the tramway that was built to ferry the goods over, but no one could afford to use the tramway, so they just carry it up.
They carried
Old
it.
horse bones and that sort of thing along that section. It was those gentlemen and women were incredibly impressive. Like, the
And,
determination that they had to succeed was unbelievable.
right. And I think that's the tie-in I'm trying to bring to this part that we're on our motorcycles is this is what's made this place.
Definitely.
These people who and if you ever get to see for people listening, if you ever get to look at the picture of them walking up this the snow ice staircase that they actually built to climb up that, and they got to come back with to get more. Like, it's
Yep.
psychotic to even think of how tough. And then there was not a lot happening, like you said, heartbreak in Dawson City. Like, a lot of the gold had already been found in Rabbit Creek and stuff, right? A lot of the easy gold was already found.
Definitely.
Probably a
Yep.
lot more before anybody ever heard that there was gold there. I think that's really what happened. But it's very historic, and we're only in Dawson City, and it's
Exactly.
already that historic. So
Yeah.
you can go. So we, if you and I were going, we could go across the Yukon and go to the top of the World Highway over to Chicken, Alaska. We could go that way for a ride.
Yep.
But that's not where we're going. We want that sign, right? We want that sign, the Arctic Ocean.
Yep.
So we would stay. We There's great restaurants too in Dawson City. People, those little kind of cafes are spectacular too, right?
Definitely
Old
are.
time for sure. So
Yep.
there's places to stay there. Obviously, the one I just mentioned. I'm sure there's a lot more that you can stay, but you hang out there for a couple of days, like you said. The sun doesn't go down, so you're there and you don't even realize how long you're there. Then what do we do?
Well, depending, there is some great riding if you guys do head over top of the World Highway. Dawson, it's definitely worth a couple days if a person has it in their schedule. Another thing we do like to do, actually, we go out in the gold fields. We go up Hunker Creek Road, and we'll go up and we'll do the loop. But after checking out Dawson and that, we will head for the start of the Dempster Highway, and it starts off pretty much just like any other road. New road sign at the end of it, but it becomes apparent pretty quickly what you're getting yourself into, and it also doesn't take long to get into some impressive landscape.
Yeah, yeah.
75 kilometers, and we're rolling into Tombstone Territorial Park, and
That's the cool part of the ride is that first 75 kilometers is kind of like you're riding and there's trees on the left and there's trees on the right, and it's kind of narrow, and it doesn't really have there's not a lot going on. When I rode it, it was horrible weather. So, but what interesting is, as I came out of that 75 kilometers, as I was coming to Tombstone, there was this beautiful glow in the center of that little portion of the Dempster, and I could see this light. I was going, wow, it's not raining. And then there's Tombstone National Park, and it's
awesome.
just beautiful. And you can't drive by that place. You have
No.
to go to that place.
Yeah.
Spectacular. Tell us about that.
Yes. Well, I'm not much of a hiker myself, but it is worth stopping and getting off the bike, and even if you're just kind of tootling around. But if you do want to do some hikes in the backcountry there, you do got to reserve your time. Only so many folks are going to be back in there at any given day. There are spots as well. If you want to get remote and get into the backcountry, you can get right into the base of the Tombstone Mountain. That is it's yeah, it's beyond words. It's
You
another
can't describe
another
that.
world.
Yeah,
No,
you
I
can't
honestly
describe that.
can't. You have to see it. My words would unfortunately would not do it justice.
I When I was up there, I met some people who took a helicopter. They were elderly, but they took a
Yeah.
helicopter from Dawson, and they
Yeah.
flew up into it. Into There was places that they said that it was just another world to fly up there, and they came in the foggy kind of rainy weather, and then hit that beautiful portion when yeah, you know, having you on, Sean, and have done this, I don't know how you can spread the passion of this part of Canada. I haven't been everywhere in the world, but I've been to this place in Canada. And for Canadians, like, before you go anywhere else, you should see this. Is that fair?
It's completely fair, you know. Like I say, being growing up here and that, I didn't quite realize what it was until I started traveling a fair bit, and that's when it really opened my eyes. I'd been to some places. I'm not going to mention them by name because I'm not trying to, dig any other beautiful places of Canada. But I've been mentioned to go to some places in Canada, and I've pulled up and thought that, like I can't be here yet. There's got to be another road to bring me up a valley or something because this just isn't beautiful enough. And that's when I really realized how fortunate I am and what I get to call my home.
And you talked about the part of getting in there. I found, and I don't know if you have had any clients or yourself, when I hit the top of the Tombstone, I something happened to me. Like I had this overwhelming, like I actually started crying when I got there, literally in my helmet. Tears were like I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was like people don't know how to digest it because you haven't seen it.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's one thing when you roll in at the bottom of the hill at Tombstone where the campground and the interpretive center is and you're looking at the Tombstone range. But when you do climb that pass, the first pass that you're talking about, and you get up over top and you're seeing the next valley and the tombstones to your left, it's out of this world, you know. It's
Yeah.
what honestly that's probably one of my favorite places in the world. And
Oh yeah.
I had decided that long before I was had the opportunity to visit the Dempster on a motorcycle. That was back in my truck driving on the Dempster Highway days, and we can talk a bit about that if you want later on.
Sure.
But it's what really kind of set my heart on the Dempster Highway was going up there in my younger days and driving transport up there and
Yeah.
realizing how fortunate I was. Not a lot of people wanted to go up there, and I was like I took it for granted again because yeah, I'd much rather drive up there than anywhere, any interstate, any Trans
Hands
Canada
down.
highway or anything, right?
Hands down.
Yeah.
So before we keep going on from Tombstone, a little bit of the history of the Dempster.
Well, the Dempster Highway was actually it was enacted. Diefenbaker was the man behind the Dempster Highway, and it was the roads to resources. And at that point in time, after the war, they wanted to look at our natural resources that we had for extraction, but they also looked at it from a defense standpoint. So. That's when the idea of the Dempster Highway really kind of came about, and it wasn't until about I believe it was 12 years after that act was enacted that they actually started building the Dempster Highway. In '69 is when the original work had started on the Dempster Highway, and then it was paused. I'm not exactly sure on the dates of when it was paused, but it was paused for some reason, whether it was funding or what it was, and then they restarted a short time later and continued the push, and that was to Inuvik. But it was always their intentions to run the road out to Tuktoyaktuk. It just
Right. They
it
took a
never
little
got
they
completed.
took a little while, the last 135 clicks, or whatever it is, 150 clicks.
They definitely did take their time, 2017 is when that it opened up the Tuck connector, and quite some time from 1969 to continue that second.
In that from Fort McPherson and Tuck and all those Indigenous did a great job and still to this day participate largely in that, don't they?
Definitely, yes. No, they look after the road, and especially in around Fort McPherson and Inuvik, they played a major part in the construction, and they play a crucial part in the maintenance of the road. And to be honest, they actually do a better job than what gets done on the Yukon side. And yeah, hats off to them because
Oh yeah.
it's a beautiful place. And a lot of them, again, they want to be there. They enjoy their home. They're
Oh,
proud of their home. They're incredibly proud of their home. And a lot of them are honored when they see, all these crazy people from all over the world and Canada
oh,
racing
they
to the
love.
north to go check out where they're living, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
it
I'll tell you how this really ties in what you're saying. When I went up there, I put a post out and I hashtag Tuktoyaktuk.
Yep.
And when I get there, I spend a couple days. The weather's bad. I'm not feeling well. All this other stuff's going on, and I go into a little shop that's selling some of the local art. And the lady looks at me and goes, "Are you Frank from Ottawa that was coming to Tuktoyaktuk?" I go, I go, Yeah, we've been waiting for you." So they really love to see people, and you got to respect. That's where they live. You got to respect when you go there. They have their own traditions, their own way of life, and you really, when you're there, you are a visitor.
Definitely.
You're a
Yeah.
guest. You're a guest second. You're a
Yeah.
visitor first, right?
Yeah.
But I was blown away that somebody actually, I didn't even know this person, just had this on their map that if I came in there that they were going to say something. So you're right. They really love seeing people, Fort McPherson. I have friends in Fort McPherson now, and
Yeah.
they're just great people. And I have friends in Inuvik too. Cynthia's B&B. I'm giving her a plug because she's a great lady. She has a great stop in Inuvik. But anyway, we're not in Inuvik yet. We haven't even hit any mud yet, right? We haven't had any
Definitely.
mud.
No. No.
So going back from Tombstone as we're traveling north to the Arctic Ocean, um, you were talking about that one big left-hand turn up onto the next section, the plateau. You can
Yeah.
see once you're up there forever. I made that big left-hand turn, and there was a guy on a bicycle from Bulgaria in
Okay.
Crocs, in a pair of
Yeah.
Crocs and his bicycle with a with a piece of clothes hanger and a broken mirror as his mirror. I don't care if I have to push this. I'm getting to the ocean. Incredible. Incredible. Not around the corner, eh?
It never ends, we're going to stay at a pretty constant elevation for some time, and we get to follow along nice little winding river, and next kind of scenery, you've got beautiful outfitters camp that you got some horse corrals, and it looks out of place, or it's out of place because there's nothing around, but you look at the building and the landscape, and it's not out of place at all. It's actually an incredible little paradise, right? And from there, as you say, we're gonna usually take a little pit stop down at Elephant Rock, and like I say, most people don't know what the rest stop's for. They just think, oh, it must be a rock in the river. But you got to have a keen eye, look off into the to the southeast of you there a little bit, and maybe zoom in on your camera and look closely at those peaks, and you're gonna see there is an elephant standing up on the mountain, and it's
Yeah.
there all the time. You can't miss it,
Yeah,
as long as it's
it'll
not
never
cloudy.
move. I promise
Definitely.
you, it'll never move. It will
Yeah.
always be there. It's cool because you have to just kind of look off to the southeast just a bit, and then you see it, eh? And
Yeah.
then it's clear. I remember people going, "Well, I don't see it. I don't see it," and they would say that for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden they go, "Oh my gosh, it's right there."
Totally. No, I've wanted to hike up to it, and I've never unfortunately made the time to do so. So maybe
You don't have enough time in life to do everything on the Dempster.
that's very true. I was gonna say that's unfortunate, but it's not really, because it just means that every time is a new adventure,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. So we're heading we're heading some a little bit of bugs, not too bad.
Yeah.
I didn't have a bad story with bugs, but hey, listen, you're not seeing any Tim Hortons. I just want to tell everybody who's listening and watching, there's no Tim Hortons, there's no
No.
7-Eleven, there's no garbage cans, there is nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Y-
No,
y- y-
380 kilometers from the card lock at Dempster Corner until we're gonna see anything that remotely looks like civilization.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you will thank yourself for it. You'll
Right.
thank her. Yeah, for sure. So we're heading up that little hill now, right? We're going up the hill to Eagle Plains at some point.
Yeah, well, we'll head up actually Ogilvy Ridge first,
Ogilvy
which
Ridge
is
first.
the
Yeah,
the nice the big pull.
yeah,
Some people call it shithouse, and the reason they call it that, there's actually a fascinating story. There was another gentleman on bicycle doing the Dempster Highway, but he did it really late in the fall one season, and he got to the top of Ogilvy Summit summit there, there's a pullout and a rest stop, a couple outhouses, and he got stuck in a snowstorm. And even highways wasn't out plowing the roads, like it was a freak snowstorm. And he camped out, lived in the one outhouse for 4 days, and used the other outhouse for his toiletry needs. So the nickname shithouse for a good reason.
Yeah,
But
for a good
so
reason.
so,
And he
so,
woke
so
and he woke up to the Richardson Mountains out in the line, right? Way out there.
the Ogilvies, yes, the
Oh, the
Ogilvy
Ogilvies.
Mountains,
Yeah,
the
right.
Ogilvies
Ogilvies.
out in the ridge there, and yeah, that was a a spectacular place for him to be for 4 days. But that's your first kind of sense of really pulling a good grade on the Dempster. And when you do get up top, it's you do almost feel like you are on top of the earth, and yet you still got a long way to go. But it just kind of gives you that perspective. And then you're fortunate enough to ride the ridge lines, the spines of the mountains, as I like to call them, is where they built the roadway for the next 80-90 kilometers to get to Eagle Plains. And
Right.
it's, you've got views on both, all three, all four directions, but you're literally riding on the tops of the mountains, and you just kind of keep following those ridge lines. And it is really is, it's an amazing, spectacular ride. That
Right.
again, it's another one of my favorite sections. I think, it's tough, but they're all my favorite sections. But there's just so many good sections along the Dempster Highway that it never gets old,
Never gets boring.
No, it doesn't.
Some road trips become long.
Yeah.
That there's just too much there. So all right, so we're now heading up to Eagle Plains
Yeah.
where it should have never been built, according to all my Indigenous friends. They'd have no idea why they built that up on that big mountain with the worst weather. I don't know. Did you hear
Totally.
did you hear that story?
Yeah, yeah. No, they definitely could have picked a better spot for it, but kind of fortunate that they did at times.
The
Just
winter.
for
The winter,
well,
it's a good place, eh?
it really is,
Yeah.
it's yeah, it's a great little haven, the place. I explained to a lot of people, it hasn't been updated much over the years, but that doesn't that actually brings to the character. Let's sort of say that doesn't matter, because it's just it makes the place really what it is, and it makes you realize that there probably ain't nobody would probably build another one in this day and age, right? So
Oh
it's
no. Oh
it's
no.
a treasure.
Yeah, and it's beautiful too. It's
It
absolutely
is.
the lounge area at the bar is so cool. The history is over the top,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
the food's tremendous,
it is.
absolutely tremendous,
Yeah,
and the people who work there, they get it.
yeah,
They get what
do.
travelers are about. They're
Yeah.
so accommodating. Have you had that experience? Super accommodating.
100%. Yeah, they've always been really, really good to us, and not just in the travel days. I like I said, I did a lot of work up there over the years, construction, and was part of a lot of projects along the Dempster Highway in my construction days. And they always treated us the same, whether we were a traveler or we were a dirty construction guy coming in there and dirtying the place up. So
Yeah.
just really, big hospitality. And there's a reason the owner's there a lot of the time, and a lot of his staff have been there a long time as well. The one
Yeah.
cook in the restaurant has been there, oh geez, I think he's going on 17 or 18 years. So
Yeah.
it's it's again, there's a reason us folks stay up this way,
A
and you
100%.
get it.
Well, I'll give you an example of why this is so true. When I rolled in there, it was torrential downpour. It was about
Yep.
11 o'clock at night. I was soaking wet, not feeling well. I go in. There's no rooms.
Yep.
There's no camping.
Yep.
So somebody heard this plight, and a lady came out and said, "Show me how'd you get here." So she comes out and sees the bike, and it's used to be green and now it's brown.
Yep.
Right. And she goes, "Come in with me." And they brought me back to the infirmary, and they said, "Unless somebody dies here tonight, we'll have to wake you up, but we do have a place for you to sleep."
Perfect.
I couldn't believe that.
Yep.
I couldn't believe that. Like, I had no idea, right?
Yep.
Soaking wet. like, I might have been sleeping outside with my body up against a rock, who knew, right?
Totally.
Incredibly accommodating, and,
Yep.
that really goes to the people that live up there. They really get it. They really get where they are, and they really get why you're going. Like, the conversations were tremendous with the people, so you're 100% right. As somebody who doesn't live up there, I can attest to the great treatment, of Eagle Plains, and
Yeah.
yeah, Kathy was great, as I'm sure you know who she is.
Yep.
She was a great lady, fantastic. I think she's retired or something now, I heard.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, but, she
Yeah.
was in charge of the roads?
She was a road foreman, and then she was also the paramedic up there. That he wore many hats, and you know, when you work remote like that, there's always a camp mom,
Yeah.
and that you met camp mom that day
I
that
did,
Kathy
eh?
would have helped
Okay.
you out. You know what I mean? So she
Yeah,
did wear many hats, and
yeah.
and she was good at all of those hats that she wore.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny, eh? We're only halfway there, and I have 5,000,000 memories.
I believe you.
We're not even there yet. We're not
Yeah.
even where we're going. So, all right, I'll let you carry on, as we're taking our journey.
Yeah, so from there we're gonna leave Eagle Plains and drop down into another river valley, but that's not gonna last too long because we're only 40 kilometers from the Arctic Circle, which is a major accomplishment in itself, and it's it's again, it's beyond describing words. It's an accomplishment to cross that imaginary line that we're all drawn to, right? It's worth the stop. I always stop there for at least 20 or 30 minutes and just take in the breathtaking beauty.
And the
And
beautiful big golden eagles that are up there.
Definitely, yeah. The it's funny what how much those signs and those imaginary lines and points that we've decided mean something in this world that really means so much to us, right?
Right, right.
Yeah,
Well, it means so much to us with the expectations of going, and then it
yeah,
means so much to us years later when we're talking about it. You know, it's funny in life, eh? We'll have these conversations about all kinds of great things, but really, truly, only the real great things never lose sight in your mind. And this is one of those places. As a
yeah.
Canadian, we're so fortunate for this beauty. The sad part is most Canadians don't even know where it is.
No, no, I hear you on that, So,
Yeah,
uh, whole Yukon's trying to bring awareness to that, but slowly, we've got our growing pains here in the Yukon, like everywhere else does right now. But we're still open arms and open doors to people that want to come up here, and like we've said before, most folks that visit, it's not their only time they're gonna come if they don't move here permanently, right?
yeah.
So.
I've been there 4 times, and I can't wait to go again. Now, I had a pretty crazy experience going down to Rock River.
Yeah, yeah.
Tell us the beautiful Rock River.
Well, Rock Rivers, it is, I guess, you pull out a Dempster parking lot and it's first thing in the morning. You're probably not expecting that grade. You do got a pretty steep grade going down towards Rock River there. And, you can't really see the bottom of it until you're right over top of the river, too. So you're not quite sure when it's going to end. And then, you've got one of them awesome corrugated metal bridge decks when you get to the bottom of it that you got to navigate and hope
Yeah.
that there's not a transport coming at the same time.
Yeah, and you have to be careful that you understand when it's wet that the color change of the road matters.
It definitely does, even even somewhat when it's dry. To be honest with you, you can even notice those color differentiates are going to tell you, your looser material and that sort of thing. And it's really one of the best indicators on the Dempster Highway. I'm glad you actually brought that up, Frank, because
Yeah.
it's a telltale, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and it goes back to our beginning where I said that if you come there on your brand new GS or your brand new 7, T7 or
yeah,
whatever,
yeah.
please don't make this the first time you've ever driven it on gravel because it will eat you alive.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it
Fair?
it definitely it definitely is, and that's something that I try and make very apparent to people so they know what they're getting in themselves into. No fear mongering, just giving them the facts so that they
Yeah.
can make the right decision. And one of those big part of the right decision with the Dempster is tires. And I know it's the age old thing on forums and debates, and everybody's got their flavor tire and oil, snake oil, and whatever else that they want to use. But it really is a very, very important decision for making a successful journey. You know, there's been all kinds of bikes that have done the Dempster Highway, from Gold Wings to lightweight enduros and everything in between. You know,
Right.
big Harley
Tires and
baggers.
riders. Tires and riders,
Exactly.
Sean.
Yep. You know, and that's all fine and dandy success when it's dry, but the Dempster really is a different animal when it gets wet. It's, you know,
I drove good sections of it with my feet on the ground,
there you go.
like going slow because it was just slime,
Yep.
you
Yep.
know. And it's weird because that's the thing you have to understand about the beauty is there is a beast.
There is 100%.
And it's almost like the protective mechanism to protect the beauty.
Yeah.
It has the
No,
beast
it's
for
nature's, yeah, self-protection mode
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Even though this man built this beautiful road, it was made out of a material up there that doesn't like water. So, so
Yeah.
you're true. You're so true when it's dry. When it's dry, you can just crock that go. Just go. It's
Yep. It's
beautiful.
hard
It's
as rock.
wide.
Yep.
You can see for miles,
Yep,
but
yep,
it's
and then you
when
can see
it's
the dust clouds, so you know when you've got oncoming traffic coming
yeah,
at you.
yeah.
It's very
There's not
apparent.
a lot of oncoming traffic. We should tell everybody that you might see it, but then you might not see any for 3 hours too, though. Like
Totally.
or you might not see any that day.
Yep,
So it's one of those things that yeah, you'll see the dust cloud. It'll be the only one you might see, but you'll see it. But I'm really fascinated by the conversations you say about on forums about tires and so on. This goes for people who are traveling there by automobile too. That rock will
definitely.
cut your tires too. Like you're not having
Yeah.
10 ply tires, but you could go there in a Honda Civic too. Trust me, you could. There's no potholes or that are going to rip you apart. It's more about driving conditions, drive at the conditions. That's I
Exactly.
think that's what I learned about that place.
Definitely. Yep. No,
And I
and
don't want to
that's
scare
all with the
people for sure.
respect. No,
Yeah, I'm
no,
not trying to scare
that's
them.
just, yeah, that's just part of what we mean when we say respecting the road. You know, it's
Yeah.
you know, drive according to the conditions, and you know, try and make good judgment calls, because you're alone. You're usually
Yeah.
alone. Yeah, don't get me wrong, it's getting a lot more popular. You know, there are people on the Dempster. It's not the middle of no, it is the middle of nowhere, but
But
you
people
know,
got
it's
there now. People are there now because people want it. It's like Mount Everest. It's just if people want to do it. They want
yeah,
it if they're going to ride and they've ridden dirt, they want to ride it.
exactly.
You know, I read some forums there where people are, I need 3 extra tires and I need spare gas and then I see these motorcycles with, like they got their house. They, you know, I feel like I'm in India or I'm in Dominican Republic again, where I've got all this. You don't need to carry all that. You got to be really smart about that place. You don't need to do that.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know, yeah, you
No,
might get a flat tire, maybe bring a patch kit and a pump. That doesn't hurt, but
totally.
you know, if you have good tires, and it is good tires, not 9010s. I think I had 9010s that they were off-road tires,
It's,
you
yeah,
know.
it's the way you need to go.
Right, right. All right, so we got into a little bit of equipment. That's a whole other. You can talk a whole other show on that. But so
Totally.
so we went through the beautiful part of Rock River. Isn't there a campsite close to there? I'm trying to yeah.
There is. There's a government campground right at Rock River there, and it's a great little spot. You know, if a guy is getting caught in some weather, there's a little government's got a cookhouse there that's all screened in, and it's got a wood stove. So if you've been soaked for a day or whatever, and need to dry some gear out, it's a great spot to do it. You know, it's little mosquito-y because you are down in the valley, but try and get the campsites back along the creek. You don't want the ones facing the road. It's kind of swampy down in there and not much of a breeze, but a beautiful campground, and you know, a great location. That's, you know, one
Beautiful
another.
location.
It absolutely is, you know, and it's great. Like, props to the government of Yukon for having government campgrounds with services. You know, not when I say services, guys, I mean firewood and outhouse and a
Screen,
cooking
yeah,
grill. You
yeah,
know,
the
screened
screened-in
in
area. Yeah,
bunkhouse, totally that sort of thing. Out on the Dempster Highway. That's really good of them to provide that for us. You know,
absolutely, absolutely. I stayed there. I stayed in that little section right there. It was beautiful, fantastic.
right?
Yeah, I went in August, so the bugs weren't as bad in August,
Yep.
but they're still there. But hey, listen, don't sweat that stuff. That's going to be there. It's how it is. Just enjoy
It is.
it. Enjoy that. That's what it is. And you know, you don't have to worry about bears as much as you do about the bugs. Trust me, the bugs will kind of get you a little bit if you're there in June or July, I guess. So back
Yeah,
to
well,
court.
and it's a trade off with the Dempster,
Yeah,
and it's only well, I shouldn't say only available to bikes because that's not true. Certain times of the year, it's available to bikes any time of the year, but the average person is going to be there from June until some guys, push it mid September if they're really into the fall colors and photography and that sort of thing. But you're either going to contend with dry, dusty conditions, mosquitoes, or it's going to be wet and not a lot of mosquitoes,
and
or it's going to
snow,
be cold and
and it's going to be
snow.
snow and not a lot of
Um,
mosquitoes.
exactly. So it doesn't really matter when you're going to do it. You're going to have some pretty major things to contend with
Yeah,
either way,
yeah, and
right?
that's why it's a journey, Sean. It's
Exactly.
a real journey.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so we're carrying on. Are we going to stop at Midway just in case?
Well, I love stopping at Midway.
Absolutely.
I've been fortunate enough to been to some of the actual music festivals at Midway Lake, and amazing time. You really
Incredible
see,
time.
yeah, you see the true talent of the locals. Not a lot of outside folks realize how influential and how big and how part of like the Gwich'in and the northern lifestyle that fiddle music actually is. And them folks they can play a fiddle and they can dance a mean jig,
They can dance a jig.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's really a great time.
And if your name is Blake, you better dance a great jig, eh?
Totally, totally. I've been fortunate enough to get in on some of their jigging circles up there with my motorcycle boots on and my riding pants, and we stopped in for 5 minutes to just say hello, and 3 hours later we're all leaving with big smiles on our face, and
Yeah.
we're sweating harder than we were riding in the mud.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it's
Anybody listening
good
or
time.
watching, you got to go on YouTube and check out Midway's Fiddle and Jig Festival. Is it every year in July?
No, it's actually early August. The
Oh,
last one too, but I think it might change every year. Don't quote me on any of that, but it's definitely worth looking into. Midway.
and then from there we're coming close to the Peel.
Yes, you betcha. We're gonna roll up to the Peel, which is, it's another magical thing. A lot of people look at the Peel, and it for a river, it doesn't look like much on that section. But if a person, looks into what the Peel River actually has to offer, it's literally it's God's country. It's a
Oh yeah,
protected area of the Yukon now. We've got three major water systems up in there: the Snake, the Wind, and the Peel, I believe, is river, and it's out of this world, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah. And
another planet.
It feeds the Gwich'ins of Fort McPherson.
It
Everybody
definitely
I know
does.
there, we went out white fishing there when I was there, catching
Yeah,
whitefish.
yeah,
It
yeah.
feeds them. It
It
feeds that
does.
whole community.
Yeah, and whitefish is wonderful. It's a treat in itself,
Oh,
So to have
all
that
that
just
food
flow
is a
into the
treat.
community is pretty special, And the
Yeah,
folks at Fort McPherson are wonderful people, They're just
yeah,
yeah, just kind of out there and enjoying life, and
yeah,
it's funny, a lot of them, they obviously they have their struggles like any community, but there a lot of them are really really happy, and like I say, very proud of their region and that and who they
right.
are. So it's
Yeah.
and they love to talk to the tourists,
Oh,
they
oh
can't get
yeah,
enough of that.
100%. So when I was there, I met some great people. I got to do some radio work on their local radio station. Was
Okay.
hilarious. Work with the elders. It was
Yeah.
fantastic. We hung out. It was great. We did all kinds of fun stuff. Uh, got to go out. Got to go out rabbit hunting, duck hunting for soup for the elders.
Awesome, Frank.
Got some great donuts, some of the best old fashioned donuts, right?
Yeah.
Caribou ribs and donuts are a
Yeah.
staple in Fort McPherson. And then they have one of the world renowned canvas companies in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
McPherson Wall Tents.
yeah. people, some of the best tents. I bought some stuff there that I've now had for, I'll have till I'm dead. It's the
Yeah.
best quality stuff I've ever seen. So, and it's in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere, everybody. It's in the
Right?
middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. And they
great
ship them
people.
literally all over the world.
Absolutely. Their canvas tents are world renowned, and
Yeah.
canvas bags. Some of the greatest human beings I ever met on
Yeah.
this planet, anything I've ever done, the kind people,
Mhm.
welcoming people, and great to tell stories. And I'll tell you, some of the most
Oh,
humorous,
yeah.
but they know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
People of Fort McPherson were fantastic with that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
now you see why you got to go, right? It only gets,
Oh,
it just keeps getting better. So all right,
it
so we're
does.
crossing the Great Peel on the. It has a ferry system there that's, I think, going to be probably running pretty soon in June, right? Usually around
Yes,
this
it's
time.
yeah, they had some delays there this spring opening it up, and they've got some pretty wet weather going up on the Dempster here right now, and they had a larger than average snowpack here this last winter. So the rivers are really high, and they're having some troubles with the ferry landings currently, but it's kind of day by day. They're talking possibly tomorrow morning they'll have it open for a bit, but they say that with the rain coming down, that it might only be open for the morning and shut down again in the evening. So it's a while, and there have been like there's been travelers up here now for the last 12 to 14 days trying to thinking that they were getting up to Inuvik and up to Tuk, but unfortunately with the ferries not in play, that's not the case, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
get across the Peel River there and check out the folks in McPherson, and then from that section you really start. That's really where the divide is as you're coming down just after you cross the NWT border to the Peel Ferry. The landscape really changes there. You're going from the mountainous terrain down into the Beaufort Delta, which is to explain it in terms that most people understand. Just imagine the Florida Everglades of the North is one of the best ways to describe it, because
Yep.
there's literally tens of thousands of lakes and marshes, and the fish up there, and the waterfowl and whatnot. It's just a paradise
Incredible.
and a mecca for them, right? So it's pretty neat. It is a different landscape. It's a different type of awe. It's
Yeah. The trees are
realize
very small.
totally.
They really change in a very short amount of time from big trees. You can tell they have harsh winters.
Totally, yeah, and frozen ground,
Yeah.
so them roots ain't too happy, that's for sure, right? But
No.
it's a different type of beauty, and it's like I say, it's that true nature beauty, like to realize just how much wildlife thrives because of that landscape. It's
Right.
birds travel thousands of miles every year to get up there, and you get to ride through that, and it's untouched.
It's untouched.
um and a lot of people think, well, there's a road going through there, there's civilization. Well, yeah, but 100 meters on either side of that road is literally nothing, like
Yeah, you're not getting out, you're not walking out if you're not taking the road. Maybe that's a good
exactly.
way to explain it to everybody. If
Yeah,
you're not on the
yeah.
road, you're not leaving.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that's the best way to describe it,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
just yeah, kind of meandering through those lakes, and then you're gonna roll up to the Mackenzie and
Mm.
think that it's a lake or something, but it's just the mighty Mackenzie. There's a reason they call it the mighty Mackenzie, right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's the banks are, as you drive down to get City Chicks on the right, and as you ride down to the landing, those bluffs or those cutouts are
totally.
incredible from the snowpack that just scrapes the side. Interestingly enough, there was a woolly mammoth found there by somebody probably in 2015 or 16, I think,
Okay.
after the ice went out.
Yeah.
One of the locals were telling me that the whole intact one was in the side of the washout, and that's how they dug it out of there from all the ice pack that kind of scraped away, I guess is what happened. But we read
Yeah.
about the Mighty Mackenzie in school ages ago. Like it was a historic waterway, and again, a lot of people don't even know where it is.
No. No, they don't. And like I say, it looks like it's a massive lake when you get to it. And the small community that you mentioned, Sigachik, there up on the bluff. It's pretty historic, memorable location on its own. And sitting right in the Y there, the river. It's vulnerable location, but a majestic beauty at the same time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. When you get on that ferry and cross across, it's when you really, really get tuned into, "This is insane. I just went 600 or 700 kilometers, and, like, this is here."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's incredible. So
Yeah.
we've crossed that beautiful ferry ride, and now we're heading to the metropolis of
Yeah.
Inuvik.
Yeah, we're heading to the bright lights of Inuvik, as I like to tell the clients when we're heading up
Yeah,
there.
we're
They don't.
getting to the big city.
Yeah, they don't quite get the reference in the summertime because it doesn't get dark, but they understand what I'm meaning, right? And again, just traveling through the same type of landscape, the little broccoli trees, as I like to call
Yeah,
them, and the lakes and that rolling up into Inuvik, and then you get a bit of a treat, just outside of Inuvik, you roll up onto some chip seal, and you've never been so thankful to see rough asphalt in your life after bouncing down the Dempster for that long. But
yeah,
don't get too comfortable because it doesn't last long. It just runs you basically into town, and
yeah,
I'm not quite sure the reasoning behind it. Maybe to give them the feel of a bit of city life, right?
right,
In and
right.
around Inuvik. But
Yeah,
it
well, they
is.
probably got sick of the dust because you wouldn't wanna be in that town with all that dust all the time. Maybe that has some value.
Totally, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, no, and you start rolling into the big city of Inuvik, and realizing that there are a bunch of people that live up here. It's again, there are a lot of resilient folks, and Inuvik is really unique. It's just how diverse of demographic it has of folks. It's got the most the northernly most mosque in the entire world is actually in Inuvik, and a lot
yeah,
of people don't realize that. They're like, Inuvik, like, you think of Inuvik and you think Eskimo, or that type of thing, right? But no, it's a very, very diverse community and has been for a
absolutely.
long time, and it's really unique. And actually, the mosque, it started its life in Winnipeg, is where it was built in one piece, and it actually floated down the Mackenzie and then was hauled into Inuvik. So some really unique
There's a
history
will, there's
there.
a way.
Yeah, I always get all kinds of questions from folks about the Igloo Church. They don't
Yeah,
they they're wondering, well, what is this thing,
yeah,
and another neat thing that the town's actually done in the last few years is they've got a community garden that's right on the main drag pulling into Inuvik. And it's amazing to see the fruits and the vegetables that they're pulling out of there. They've been quite successful with that project, and it's pretty neat to see the community doing that.
yeah, it's great. It's a unique little town, right? It was built
It
because
is.
of the oil, or the whole fabric behind it was because of the possible oil back in the
Yes.
day, right? That was the
Yes,
reason, and then we decided that we didn't want oil anymore, but that community still continues to thrive very well.
it does.
Tourism's
Yeah.
a big part of it, but it's thriving in other areas as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's truly the hub of the whole region, it's really a lot of folks in the other outlying communities that are truly remote, up on the northern coast, and that rely on Inuvik as their main base point to get staples, and even to come in for services and deal with government, or medical, or dental, and that type of appointments, right? So
Right.
it is a real staple for the whole North, Yukon and Northwest Territories,
Yeah.
even for the connection with the Gwich'in and Old Crow, and between Inuvik and that, it's always traditionally, historically been an important route for the locals, to go to Inuvik, right?
Yeah, and eclectic. It's super eclectic. So there's a couple of campgrounds. No, there's one campground, right?
Yeah,
I
well,
think
there's one on the outskirts of town, and then the visitor center's kind of got like a bit of a primitive one right in town that a person can use as well.
okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so if you're heading up there, you got that. There's a new hotel, I believe, that was built, isn't there?
Yep, there's new hotel that was just built, and that's helping out with the accommodations. But the other two hotels are both, especially this year, the one's under renovation all summer long, and the other one, I don't know what they're up to over there.
Right.
So it's even though we've got the new hotel, it's a little difficult for accommodations right now in Inuvik.
Yeah, right. And I was saying earlier, my friend has just an absolutely beautiful place called Cynthia's B&B. Absolutely beautiful place.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't have to say more. Absolutely, ever going up there, that's a
totally.
great place to person to talk to about accommodations, and one of the greatest cooks I've ever met in my life. On top of that, especially the muktuk. Ugh,
Okay.
ugh, that's where do I buy that here in the South? You can't.
Right.
You
Right.
can't. But what a
Yep.
meal,
No,
eh?
you just got to come back.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll talk about more when we hit the sign because that's a great place for it too. Grandma's kitchen
Definitely.
was very endearing when I met her. She was
Yep.
great.
Yep.
But anyway, talking about Inuvik, uh, it's got some interesting festivals and stuff. But do people ask you what all of the tubes are all above ground when they drive into town? Do you get that
Definitely.
question?
Yeah, yeah. I have to explain to a lot of people about the permafrost and the above ground plumbing and all that sort of thing that goes on in Inuvik, right? That makes it pretty unique. I usually, when people are curious about it, I'll bring them to the edge of town there. You got that big apartment building that's up on stilts overlooking the river, and people just they can't believe it when they see that. A 4-story building sitting on top of telephone poles, right? Pretty unique.
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely is. So after a little bit of food in Inuvik and checking out the visitor center and what's the name of the grocery store that sells meat that's $45 a pound or
The,
what's
the northern store.
the Northern Store and a
Yeah.
snowmobile. So when you go in, you
And
can
so you
get
can
your
go in
Kentucky
and
Fried Chicken. You can get your was it I'm trying A&W I think it was maybe it
uh
was
Pizza Hut for a while. They had Pizza
Pizza
Hut
Hut.
for a while, and chicken.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
always yeah, and then a snowmobile. If
Yeah.
you need a new snowmobile, that's inside there too. It's a crazy store.
Totally. Yeah.
It's a cra
Stop in for a jug of milk, a 30 6 and a
yeah,
new
yeah,
quad.
some
Like
bullets and a quad and some clothing, and if you forgot your rain suit, it's a great store.
it really
And
is.
the igloo church is really something to see. We're not talking a
Definitely.
huge town, right? But it's
No.
got everything you need, and the people are fantastic, which is great. So
Yeah.
after we stay there, so we've stayed there, we've had a good time, we've met some people, but this is now the anticipation of that sign.
Yeah.
We now know that sign is in front of us, don't we?
Definitely. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
we're gonna start heading north here, and it's a lot of people's biggest day. It's in their mind, and it's everyone always thinks it's the end of the journey, like I've mentioned before. So they think that it's done once they get to the sign mentally. So they're all real pumped to get there. It's a big day. Usually a lot of questions arise from that day because as you start heading north, you're wondering, well, there's all these broke down snowmobiles and stuff laying in the ditch here, and what in the heck's going on, right? And you see the odd reflection off in the distance out on the tundra there, and you start talking to locals and realize that, well, that's they just leave their snowmobiles out there all summer long, waiting for winter to come back,
And they
right?
drive them again. They're not broke down.
No, no, no. They're just leave them there. They're not going nowhere. It'll be waiting for me when I come back next fall, right?
Yeah.
So some questions, but also some moments of wondering what the day is going to be like, and it's 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 kind of it's almost like a maze. I don't want to describe it as a maze, but it keeps you guessing the entire way from Inuvik to Tuck because it's not like you can see the ocean. You're not high enough up to see beyond the horizon. So
Nope.
you're constantly looking over as far as the eye can see to wonder, is that the ocean yet? Is that the ocean yet?
Out in the distance, and you're going, is that the part of it? And
Yeah,
it's quite windy too.
it definitely is. And so you're just constantly looking. It's a real you've got this real sensation of a treasure, a seeker, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
Um
absolutely.
and so you're constantly just kind of bobbing along the tundra as you're doing that. And then you will eventually start to, if you've got the right wind going, you can even taste the salt on your lips. That's usually one of the first signs. You know you're getting close. It's the excitement just keeps building. You start getting some unique sights that you haven't seen along the way. You get to start seeing the pingos, and for
Yeah.
those that don't know what a pingo is, it's basically just a giant frost blister from the frozen tundra where the ground is so frozen from permafrost that it has lifted the soils and brought it up. So they almost look like small volcanoes, which it starts looking pretty unique because again, we're this far north. There you got no trees; it's all
Oh,
shrubbery,
it's all shrubbery,
and
yeah.
it's pretty green though. So not quite Jurassic Park green, but you've got that sense. You've got these pingos that look like a mini volcano, and this green fauna and flora as you're making your way into Tuktoyaktuk, and it's you can start seeing the town off in the distance, and you're not rolling into much because there's from even from the distance you can tell you got a few main roads going and around in Tuktoyaktuk, and that's about it.
Yeah.
The airport and the federal building are the two largest pieces of infrastructure in the town, right?
Yeah.
So, but
It's incredible. Like,
it
to
is.
imagine where this is in that far north, and there's a beautiful community of people, like, in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah, literally.
historic whaling, you know, historic whaling basically kept them there. That's
Exactly.
the craziest. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, and you're right, that drive-in people can expect, it's kinda windy and you're not really, you can see the houses, but it's still kinda like you go by the little dump off to the left there and you're kinda
Yeah.
winding it's still not set yet, isn't it? It's one of those things you're going, your anticipation so, and you know what it is? Where's the sign?
Right?
And then all of a sudden you see this "Welcome to Tuktoyaktuk" sign, so you gotta barrel over to that sign to get that
Yeah.
picture over there, but it's truly you're looking for the sign.
Yep.
Is
Yep.
that what people tell you?
That's
They're looking for that
yeah,
sign?
you're 100% right because yeah, it's yeah, I guess it's telling us that we're truly there, we probably don't believe that we're quite there at that point of that long of a journey. It's the only thing that's really gonna give us that sense of reassuring that we actually did make it.
So we get the picture at that Tuktoyaktuk, the town of Tuktoyaktuk, cool sign,
Yeah.
and then we get back on, and it's still a little bit of a way to get over. But it's spectacular as you drive this peninsula, and it gets tighter and tighter, and there was some houses that were starting to sink in there as, erosion was starting to take them in. I'm not sure what's happened to them, but that was a
Yep.
question there. But then all of a sudden, you see you see a little parking area in a turnaround area, and there's that sign that you've seen. And I don't know about you, but a lot of crazy things go through your mind when you've accomplished that ride.
Yep.
It's not the sign.
No.
It has nothing to do with the sign. Going there, it was probably the most fulfilling journey of this magnitude. It was overwhelming because the accomplishment, this isn't easy, this ride.
No.
And you may drag your feet for a long point time, and you may go really slow because you don't want to fall off, or the ass of your motorcycle might be passing you down the hill at Rock River. And all you're remembering is the sign that says, as long as you're, how's it goes, even if you fall on your face, you're still going forward. And
Right.
that's about the only thought. That's at Alistine's in, I think that's where I read that. Is it Alistine's
Yeah, yeah,
in
yeah.
Inuvik? That's where I read it. That sign. And it's so true because when you get there, you're alive still. You didn't fall off. You may have fallen off, but you really don't want to fall off.
Mhm.
Um, and the accomplishment of this beautiful nature's gift to go there is overwhelming. And that sign, while it sits in my head as a picture, for people who are thinking of doing this, it will have nothing to do with the sign.
No, it's your own personal self sense of accomplishment, and like It like we've obviously mentioned how amazing the ride is and that, but when you do get to the end of it, even if it did take you longer than you expected to do it, it's not just about the destination. It's really what you've done for yourself, and whether it was a personal goal or to boost your confidence or anything. And when you get to that point, you're gonna have it. I've seen so many guys heading north, and I know they're scared when they're stopping at the shop talking to me and trying to calm them down. And when they come back, they're literally on top of the world, and
Yeah.
their confidence level and their everything is at an all-time high, and it's really good, fulfilling for the soul.
Yeah.
Especially a lot of the adventure seekers are out there adventuring for their own reason, but a lot of the reasons are fairly similar. They're lost in their own mind, or trying to find themselves, or get over something, or live an experience that they gave up years to chase a different dream years ago. So we've all got a reason for coming up here, and a lot of it. It's just that's one thing that makes it so great, is everybody knows that when they're up here, and people don't want to say more vulnerable, but more open to be able to discuss things that they might not talk about at the
Uh,
Starbucks on the GSs or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Well, I
You
think you're
know?
100% right, because I believe that I believe it's a sense of fulfillment that when you hit that sign that says the Arctic Ocean, and you realize it's the only road in North America that can take you there without the assistance of somebody else going through an oil field.
Yep.
And when you get there, it seems that you can talk about the insecurities, or the vulnerabilities, or, like you said, the wishes to have done it but accommodating other people in life and not accommodating your goal. There's so many values to it as a person, and a guy who's loved adventure all my life, it did that for me. I needed to do that while I was still at the right age, and unfortunately, not the greatest health when I did it, but I had no choice, because I figured that there might not be tomorrow.
Yep.
So I
Yep.
had to do it today.
Totally.
And that's the beauty. And every time I talk to people about this great experience of, taking one of your motorcycles, Sean, from your company and going up there, it will be more than you ever asked for it to be once you've accomplished it.
Yep.
It'll be more.
No, I truly hear you on that. Been fortunate enough to witness some great moments up there.
I camped right on that shore. I got taken care of by all of the beautiful people of Tuktoyaktuk. I had meals, people invite me for food, met people who brought me into their house for apple pie and tea, and, like, in the middle of nowhere. It's fantastic people. These people are the greatest, fantastic humans. It
It
really is a
is.
great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a great time. So here we are. Let's talk now about, at the end, what can your company do for these people who just listened to this story, about our trip and me being able to tell you what I experienced?
Yeah.
What do you tell people? What should they know about you, the company? How can they get in touch with you, and all that fun stuff?
We've got a great social media presence, to be honest with you. In today's world, we're doing a lot of our kind of marketing through Facebook and Instagram. So it's Sean at Arctic Motorcycle Adventures. Sorry, email is Sean at arcticmoto.ca, and our Facebook is Arctic Motorcycle Adventures, and our Instagram is Arctic Moto. You can also reach out to me by phone. You can find that online on our website, which is arcticmoto.ca is our website. And we can provide anything from one-way tours to return trips to just helping out the general rider that needs some help or some advice. And another thing we should maybe mention is there's a great resource for anybody that wants to ride the Dempster. It's a Facebook page called Dempster Highway Adventure Riders, and that's just where like-minded riders are on there, kind of discussing their plans, and other folks want to join them, and looking for recommendations and road reports. And we've got a gentleman that puts some amazing weather reports together and posts them weekly. It's extremely up-to-date information, more accurate, I find, than the Weather Network, and just a great resource for people wanting to ride the North. So it's pretty good.
It's a great resource. I love reading it. Some great conversations, great people, all the anticipation. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Sean, you're a great guy, man. I appreciate you coming on my show. I hope that the people who are listening and watching can get a feel if they've been thinking about doing this, plan accordingly, get in touch with you. There's a lot of value if you're not used to that kind of terrain and riding, to get some services. And Sean, you're a great guy to do that. And listen, I really appreciate your time on here. And this has allowed me to relive one of the greatest adventures in my life. And I thank you for coming on and helping me do that again.
Hey, not a problem, Frank. Like I say, I really thank you for asking me to join you. And as you can see, it just lights me up, talk about the Dempster and what's to offer up here in the North. And like I say, whether folks want to ride with us or they just want to come up here and experience it, that's really what I'm into this entire community for. Just promote as much awareness to the area as we can. So I appreciate it.
You're more than welcome. Lots to offer. Well, Sean, thanks a lot for joining us, and definitely we'll chat again. Have a safe riding season, and we'll do this again sometime.
That sounds really good, Frank. And again, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you.